Okay, I think that we are up and running. Let me take care of a few administration items. That way I can see everybody's requests are all in. All right, perfect. And what I wanted to go over first before we move on to all the individual requests, and I see a bunch of them. We've got Facebook, we've got Apple for the close. Um, Okay, let's take a look at some of these. But first, I wanted to show you a daily program. I briefly mentioned it on the last setup that we had a daily system that one of our members who has the indicators uses. And so, what we do for that is we can right click and we can enable strategies. In this case, it's called the MBI Opus 1, and it's just for regular stock programs. But what we want to do is we want to format the strategy. And this allows us to set the properties. If I slide this over a little bit more, you can see properties. That's how many contracts or shares, and whether or not you want to automate it or not. Gives you the opportunity to do those various kind of things. And so in this case, we're going to click format. And when we click the format, it pops up this little dialog. And so we can click in the number of shares you want, what our ATR and that setup is, and then gives you some other details like how many bars to exit after. And then it goes into our setups and the overall stops, whether or not you want to create the text like you see on the bottoms of some of our various things. And then we go through the individual setups. And so before we go into all of that, let's go back to the website and we will take a look at what I was talking about. So from our website, you can go down to our MBI Opus, and in this case, it was a performance report. And all the way down below, it was this little data file. And what that creates is a little MTH. And then all the way down at the bottom of this MTH are the settings. And here they are. And so in here, this is a program that one of our members ran, and it was producing these phenomenal results. And so what we were going to do is go ahead and pop in some of those settings and see what it is as far as how the performance report is. So we've got it hooked up and pretty much with the default setup as it is. So let's go ahead and take a look at a performance report. So as it is, just with this basic default setting, it's producing a 3.21 profit factor, 73% win rate. Let's look at the time period. So it's for the last 2 years as far as this chart's concerned. And I know that other chart was going back to 2007 off the website. So that's a significant amount of time. But let's put up the format here. And so what I need to do is go back to that. And this is a feature that's available for all the different programs that we offer. And you just go to your format strategy. And in this particular case, we want to format it. And we've got it right there. And so I need to look real quick at what some of these settings were. And so for this case, he has the MBI as false all the way through the Iron Hawk. So literally, we just click it and type in the word false. And let me check to make sure. Was it the Iron Hawk as well? Iron Hawk is false, but the Star Hawk is true. Okay. I know, lovely names, aren't they? But yeah, let the kids play with something. Let's just see what that does to our performance report. So we close this um, dialog, and it's made some adjustments. We can slide back to where it's made sure. Oh, there's a Starhawk right there. Well, let's see what it's done as far as performance report. Okay, well, 72%, still 3 profit factor. Later part of the trade. Let's actually increase the time frame for the chart because I know that his setup that he had created went back to 2007. So Oh, that would be longer than that. We can just actually set the date. 2005, 2006. Yeah, that's fine. 2006, somewhere in October. That sounds good to me. The indicators require several months of backside data in order to even begin to create a trade. And so if we look at that, see if it changed anything from our overall performance report. Aha! Well, now that got ugly all of a sudden on us because we've changed the overall time period, and that's because we haven't made any of the minute adjustments within the strategy. So we go back to our format, and we go back down to the Starhawk setup, and so you have a couple of key numbers here. Now let me look at what he's got for the Starhawk. Okay, let me just improve that to 125%, this way I can see it. So this is what I'm going off. He's got right here, and we'll slide up. So Starhawk, we want the readings to be 25, 1, 2.8. Okay, so ATR is under 25. Okay, this was 2.8. So you can see how you can then adjust your up target. And if we wanted to, we could optimize this, meaning that we could go through and find out what the best general range configuration is for the overall setup. And let's see, so we had 2.8 minus 6 minus 13. Okay, so that's a big change from here. Minus 6 and minus 13. And last but not least, ratio cyan at 4. Alright, well, let's see if that changed anything. See, it's calculating. Boom. Oh, it moved a little bit of the target because it was targeting a little bit higher. Alright, moved it up to 41%. And then typically what you would do is literally take this, and this is a long set of inputs. And each one of these configurations he's gone through here. So he's turned off the Extreme Hawk, turned on the Ad Hawk. You like that one, Ad Hawk. Rainbow Hawk is true. Flat Hawk. Shake Off. Shake Hawk isn't even a hawk, it's just a shake. Eagle Hawk. So these are all true, and then it's just a matter of inputting each of these individual numbers in there. And I think his default was also at the 1,000 shares, and then you get into some of these have a lot of it now. And what I created with these inputs is that limits you to adjustments that aren't going to affect the overall concept behind what the signal was supposed to be. So this just allows you then to go through and make all of these adjustments. And then once you've completed all of them, here were the parameters, starting with 100,000 capital, commission, $30 per trade, 2% interest rate, and maximum shares. And in this particular case, I think properties, you can only have 2 positions is what it accounted for. And so that's just at the bottom of these performance reports. And so with this program, anyone who has the indicators fills all that out, it should produce this same setup using this time period. What was it? Oh, it's 5 years. So yeah, I could have just put 2007 into that chart, and that should have been fine. So I thought that was good to put in there. I'm not going to go through all of them right now and do that. I've created plenty of the different setups and included them on that data sheet, but it's just a matter of going through, punching each one of those in, and you can run through. But to create an optimization, it's pretty straightforward as well, because you can go back to that format and say, for instance, well, maybe I want to change the number of bars to exit. And then for TradeStation, you can just click Optimizer, and you can say, okay, let me see if it impacts my profit factor dramatically by just changing whether I'm getting out 8 bars in or 20 bars, and it'll increment it one by one. And you select OK, and it'll go through, and then it will literally tell you how many charts that you're going to run through in that optimization when it does it. And I can do it. It's a test count of 13. So let's see. We'll go ahead and run it. And so what it does is it basically will take the highest value, your net profit there, and it will run through that calculation, and it'll find the best configuration. So it looks like 13 becomes the best overall configuration within that setup. Now, I haven't gone through and done all 25 setups, so I'm not going to waste your time and do that. We're going to get to some of the charts you want to see. Can you do this on all stocks? Absolutely. NBI Opus was designed for major indexes, the NASDAQ, ES, but we've adapted it also to SPY and that. The difficulty you get when you move from like the ES and that, which is a 24-hour trader, is you end up with the gap setups. And so that can have an impact overall. SPY is never going to quite produce the same profit ratios as the ES because, number one, the leverage on the ES when you're getting $50 per tick compared to a stock as well. So, interesting, I need to change that to Apple too. It would help if we had the right stock. Hello? I'm not even going to get close to the right configuration if I'm not using the right stock symbol within that overall setup. Okay, so here we get some additional trades going on in between there. Alright, a little over 51% surprisingly, and I've only done one setup within that configuration within there. And what do we have time frame? Well, we're at 6 years, so we're a little bit beyond what that over. And I want to reduce that because it takes up less processing power if I am not utilizing that much data. So we'll run it back to the same time period just to get just doing one, and we'll see if it changes. Well, now see, look at that. It changed the profit factor dramatically. And sometimes when you go back too far in time, you lose the effect of it. I don't like going past gosh, the limit is really about 2004, because before that you really weren't utilizing computers in the same way. Your more recent ones, I'd say in the last 4 to 5 years, become the most effective because that's been the strongest impetus of algorithmic trading. And so there's not just, it's not a cherry picking of it, because I don't mind having the 2009 collapse and even 2007 collapse and stuff. But what I want is I want to have the computers that have been making the trades get into the setup, and that becomes significant overall. And you can see within the current configuration, it hasn't made a whole lot of trades within that setup. But as we go through the other ones, when you get further down into the setups, it starts to handle red trend. The top ones with the hawks, all the hawks would be out of green trend for the most part, which is why you see them in green trend. And then there's a whole separate category for red trend. And that's an important distinction too, and I don't think we've ever really talked about that in some of the parsing in time, where this oversold in relation to a green trend oversold, not the same, and shouldn't be treated the same. But whereas you have like a stochastics, you're going to get the exact same reading whether the market's 100 points higher as it was 100 points lower, and they're going to give you the same readings. And people then equate those as being equal, and I have a little bit more of an issue with that kind of view. Okay, so let us move on to a couple of the stocks that people wanted to see. Someone wanted me to go back to Facebook 78 minute. Let me click that, and while it's doing its calculations, we can look at the dailies on a couple. So Facebook 78 minute, that's happening behind the scenes right now. Apple for the end of day 515, we're suggesting option calc based on that volume 510. No, I don't think that 510 seems reasonable given what we're seeing, but again, this is good to look at that because that shakeout's still minus 25. But what I like about this setup, and I think this is kind of a nice short trap that's building here. You've had the weakness. It's been expressed. Now people think that coming back to the low again is going to be a problem. No, because look at this. We're in that sweet spot with the extreme histogram now. Just below the negative 45, well above the negative 60, and approaching this low number right down in here, and I was looking at anywhere that's going to be somewhere between this 508, 510 range. To me, has always been an extraordinary, and that was the low of the day, was at the 510. And it wasn't a coincidence that I was screaming about that one at the start, well, the end of Friday last week, and looking for that high ride, and took advantage of that one. And now that it's back down, and these things took advantage of it again as we started to get the signals. Didn't do an option for near term, had to go a little bit further out because I'm not expecting this to happen during the Christmas week. Have to look towards more of the January. And plus, we were still expecting the market to retrace to fill that red dot short. It did that, and now it's easing out of that. Let's take a look at Facebook 78 minute. I got that chart in here somewhere. There it is. Just had to go to the intraday setups. Facebook 78 minute. Look at that. Still below the red line. No real strong impetus. Minus 19 on the shakeout's not bad. But overall, I don't have a problem with it. When we look at the power momentum, I'd like to see a breakout move before the day closes, particularly now that you're above the red line and matching lows. If we don't see improvement in that, my concern is that you're going to get up to a peak point and then it's going to start to roll over and not have made a move. Still negative from a expanded ratio histogram, staying below the cyan line here. Though if it can dip a little bit further, we're going to get one of those little hyperpoc. But see, I want to see both. We need to see the yellow and the orange move simultaneously, and that's going to be an explosive upside momentum play right there. So keep that one in there. But let's look at the Apple as well, 78 minute. Actually, I want to look at a tighter time frame than that, because if we're talking about end of day for the close here with less than a half hour to go, we might as well talk about what's pertinent, and that's going to be the short time frame chart. Oh my goodness, it's always going to take forever for that to load because of the amount of data. This is normally where I have them already pre-done, but I can't load that many charts and still run at the higher definition for the overall setup. Okay, so we had marked these orange dots and that when we had our last video, and well, might as well zoom into price a little bit. You like the sound effect with that? Okay, so 516 was the target, and we ended up with another bifractal that actually even had higher, which was right up there. We also looked at the 15 minute, which was calling for around 517. We went from red trend to green trend. Now, this is another good one to watch for too. Oftentimes, when I switch from red trend to green trend, I look for like the next two bars to be lower. Usually coming to like trace that bottom there. Doesn't happen all the time, particularly if you've got a steep decline and a solid up move. But on a consolidation move like this, I usually look for that green trend and a little bit of a fade, and I take advantage of that little bit of fade going into it. Oh, wait, you know what? We should take a look real quick, and I think I still have my futures chart going. Yeah, it's still trading. Where's it at? Right there? Yeah. Well, we had moved this down. That really wasn't a target or anything. We were just playing with showing what you could do with the trade station. And it's easy application. This is the matrix. You can get a traditional level 2 screen. Your preference. I like it because with these different orders here, we can just down click. You can have two longs, one entry. You can reverse the trade. If we slide down over here, you can click reverse, and it will go the opposite direction. You can cancel your orders. You can do your order. This one has buy fades. You can sell portions of it. Adjust where your stops and everything else are going to be completely flexible. So it's a nice feature with it. I was a little afraid of it when I first saw it and thought, oh, it can't be any better than level 2. I'm so used to level 2, I've always traded it. But as I got comfortable with it, really it's kind of nice. You can have more detail in it if you slide this over. If I had to open the window, it'll give you volume and that. I don't really need to see any of that because it doesn't really matter to me as much. It's not something I focus on. But from a 10-minute standpoint, yeah, I like it. Look at, see, we're right in the middle of the highway. So there's the upside of the highway on the expanded, and boom, right here. We had a little pop-up, and now it's just pretty much gone into hibernation mode straight across. And let me stop this. I was doing a simul for CamStation because I wanted to put the details on that Apple setup for people, but I think I'll probably even do a full one where I go over and I include all of those. I'll have a finished one that has it, so that I don't have to, bore you with going through a million different things on all the inputs, because it's a lot of inputs with the various setups. And I haven't done it yet, but we're planning on offering as well the intraday setup, because I know that I've shown this. How's that going to pop up here? Yeah. Let me minimize my CamStation Studio. We'll take it as the recording dimensions. I have to take care of that real fast. Perfect, that's out of the way. This was the intraday. And I hadn't released that yet. We offer it for our futures for daily on the ES, because whenever it's red or green trend, it's worth targeting our daily trade overall. So we utilize that on a regular basis. But I'm still looking for the 516 target at least to be taken out, and I would expect that the 516 catfish one as well. Was the total number there 516.46? So we're looking for that one. What else do we have as far as people wanting to see? HT, what is that one? HTLV? HLF. Let me put up a daily of that HLF. Get your requests in now with the half hour to go. HLF Herbalife. There you go. Man, that was ugly before. It was ugly after. And you can see huge dip below the red line. Fine, you ended up with your little bit of pop. Got overbought so fast, wasn't even funny. And then hit the red line again, so you knew this low was going to get retraced even through these little signals right there. But minus 25 plus on the shakeout already. Same kind of. This is the same thing that you look at for Apple overall, and retested the low. Now, what got good for Apple was it came back up like this one did, redid it right here, and you'll find Apple somewhere around that minus 24, 20 range, like this one, and then boom, it hits the low, but then it just keeps going once it's below the red line. And so that's the key, was to not get back down below that red line, staying in this sweet spot. You needed to have seen this day right here when it dipped below, move back up, and when it didn't, ugly. Ugly, ugly, ugly. So let me see. Let's do PCLN again for the daily. I had a couple of questions about that one right before it ended, because it was looking somewhat attractive in my mind. I'm getting very close to retesting my low, which no surprise with the dip below the red line, and I'm doing so and just barely dipping below the cyan of the extreme histogram. That is very nice. Google from a week to a month time frame. Well, we're looking at the daily so we can see where that is, but now if we want to look at a weekly chart, we can certainly do that on it. Projection, though, from this kind of setup is I think it's going to take you another day or two to resolve. I need to see an improvement in my power Mo relationship here, and then I'd be able to say, okay, within a couple of days you can expect a pop. And I have no compunction about telling you that when the time comes. Is it likely to pop directly off this? No. No, but look at that shakeout differential. It's only at minus 4, and if I get to the lows, it's possible you could end up taking out that low in a nice little sweep, and then I get a nice signal on the dip down day where they kind of like drop it. So we'll be keeping an eye out for that one. If you've got January setups within here, I wouldn't be concerned about it at all. Let's go ahead and do it from a weekly standpoint, because I was showing everybody from the ES standpoint. We had some decent projections. Our first projection for the ES was up to the 1430 range before we flipped to the new contract, so that was equivalent to the 1440 something. And boy, did we hit that exactly, and then retraced off of that signal. So from that's old Texas, nothing to do with this current one, because we changed from to. But green dot from a weekly standpoint. So there's your power. Now, from a weekly standpoint on this, wow, that is a clean buy for someone who wants to hold PCLN. So for all the doom and gloomers, yes, you've got these dips right here, but you were below the red line, then above the red line when all these bifractals came in, and boom, it exploded to the upside from those. And now in the dip, you got your green dot fractal buys, and that corresponds to what we see on the daily. So pretty consistent, and I like it when it gives that consistency. But you can see right here, and a power move right there that was sort of that exhaustion, because immediately after it, the week after, it was negative, and it's almost resolved itself. It's pretty close to even. If that moves up to the positive, you should see a nice pop in PCLN. So that's if you look at positive charts there, that's one. I like that. Let's see if Google has the same look from a weekly standpoint, because we were liking it from a daily standpoint. And I do this for members on a regular basis. And yeah, Google, Apple ripping, of course. Well, this is what we pointed out on the last, live broadcast. We saw this developing on the 78-minute charts. Okay, so is it a surprise to me? No. Do I get excited or worked up over it? Not really, because I'm used to it. Most people are like stunned that these, things are making their move and whatever. And oh gosh, if I just let's move this up, because I don't want to get order filled right in the middle of our discussion here. But overall, will it be a decent day? Yeah. Was I expecting it to be a decent day off that decline? Sure. Because why? We met our downside target, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's what these guys were plotting for. Move it to it, it hits, they get their money, and it goes back the other direction. And this is why people say to me, I don't understand how manic it is. Why is it doing that? Well, these guys have their specific goals. They are at odds with each other at certain points, and at certain points they're in strong conflict. But a lot of time they're not really in that much of a conflict. I mean, we saw a rare one on that Amazon 78-minute chart where they were conflicted, but it didn't happen all that often. So the question is, do I want to just close this out? What have I got? Oh no, we got 30 minutes left. What the heck? Someone was saying that the Apple target got hit, so we should go back and look at that Apple 10-minute. Oh yeah, see, there's the explosion. Now, this is not surprising, because we also had the higher 517 for the other one, and also you get this up target right here from the older, and they still keep track of them. It never got anywhere near being stopped out. It did get extremely oversold right here, so it was clear and obvious. We were also looking at a 15-minute, had a higher target, and then a little bit up. Now, that does point out, I was telling people, I want to be trading the smaller time frame in Apple because of that horrible daily chart. Okay? Because the 78-minute one, with the likelihood of a retrace, it's going to be harder to play that one. So you take advantage of what you have and what the market is giving to you. So in this particular case, I'm paying more attention to my dot alerts that are coming in frantically all the time, and this was a good setup. And they got the trend change, because we were in red trend for all that time, and all of a sudden you get the little signal green trend right after you get your 6 bars, where you're like, oh no, should I get out? And boom. But it did pay you in the discount. So if we look at right there, we were looking at about $1.20, so 40 cents off. So 514 went all the way down to 514.27. So easily you would have gotten your discount off of this one, even if you hadn't already gotten your discount off the others, and you ride it home. So for the cost, wow, it's pretty cheap overall. So we're looking at Google from its weekly standpoint, and it's funny at times. What can I say? I do this a lot. So for me, it's every day looking at the signals come through. Let's get rid of some of this bulk here. So weekly, look at that Google. Nice. MBI hits below. Well, this was an extreme fractal buy. Didn't even give you the catfish. Shame on them for not giving you a catfish. 707 was the weekly upside. It came through. Didn't hit that at first. You would have been dying right here. You got just under 700. retraces a little bit, 705, and then boom, you hit there at your 716. Gives you the target. Is it overbought? No. Close from a weekly standpoint. Now, here's where I'm going to have an issue, and this is where you want to pay attention. From a weekly standpoint, fine, I've got rising shakeout, but as soon as I get a lower shakeout reading, I got a problem, because I'm going to get a lower shakeout reading at near similar highs. Oh, that's not a pretty divergence. In fact, you will see this take out the low when that happens. So, um, is that weeks away? Yeah. Just don't have to worry about it right now. What else can we look at? We should look at Apple from a weekly standpoint. We did no, we didn't do Apple. We did PCLN from a weekly. There's that. Ooh. Well, now isn't that interesting? Now, see, you guys all want to play for daily intraday stuff, but your longer term players, they are starting to get very excited about this overall setup. Look at that. Matching lows, higher extreme. In fact, we're barely at there. So from your longer term players, they are buying all of these weak hand sellers right now. That's clear. That's good to see. So there you go. For those who terrified that Apple isn't going to come back at any point, it says otherwise. So it's not dead yet. So keep that one close to your vest. Don't tell anybody. It's all secret information. And I love it too, because I don't have a bazillion followers. I'm not out there hunting down followers. I don't just randomly go out and do anything. It's just a record for me, because I like to put it out there that okay, fine. I'm either going to be right or wrong. For me, I find that helps my trading, because it forces me. I'm not going to tell you to do something if I'm not actually doing it, because I'm going to want the result from it. So, Z-Man, I'm glad you're happy. So are several others. There you go. And transition point, I don't know that I get into things like that. For me, a transition point would be like looking at that weekly. Because the weekly chart really showed that, yes, in fact, that despite this, and we looked at it from the daily, and I told members to expect it, that we were going to be looking for them to just pull their bids and let price dip down, and they would just take whatever supply they could get from that. That weekly chart really shows that, yes, they are buyers within the setup. So no surprise to Amazon from a weekly standpoint. Now, overbought, certainly. We have that short signal from the daily, so we know that, again, with that short signal, you're going to want to be looking at the smaller time frame again, because there's some downside pressure to the Amazon daily setup. And if we flip back to it real quick, we can take a look at it. Same. So you got a little downside pressure to the Amazon, but overall everything's popping up nicely from what I'm not going to make a characterization as to whether or not Fiscal Cliff real, not real. All I knew, and despite what people were saying about Fiscal Cliff, is that we could see. I'm sorry about hitting the mic there. We could see that buyers were coming into the setup. Okay, that doesn't make a judgment about it. I don't care. I really don't. Well, I mean, I care about the taxes, certainly, but if you haven't pre-planned what to do with your money, there's a reason why Scuba Diving Grain came in, and it's not because it's good scuba diving. It's okay, but it's not great. So, okay, you should have taken care of, those kinds of things long before the Fiscal Cliff and many years ago. And, unfortunately, someone like Gerard Depardieu has to leave France because you can't do that kind of thing. But legally here in the U.S., the tax codes allow for people who know what they're doing to do what Google does and pretty much avoid most tax. Now, is that right or wrong? I don't make those moral judgments. That you can say that for other people. But hey, at the end of the day, Fiscal Cliff is going to happen. We talked about it, right after the election. As almost being a certainty. There was no reason to do anything. You just let the taxes go up because you've got to cover some of these huge losses. Fine. How does that affect our trading? Well, we have to see where there are buyers and where there are sellers, and that's all we're doing. So can talk about it, fine. We can give our opinions, but I don't let any of those opinions affect what I see from my chart. I gave up doing that a long time ago because if you play the news, you're going to get knocked all over the place. I mean, gosh, they've been so pessimistic on it. Then they start to change their attitude with it, and then boom, you get this kind of drop. Now we could see that some people were selling short into that because we got the daily short signal. All right. Well, fine. I had everybody out of that because we could see that. Well, in fact, they met an upside target. Now we see some shorts coming into it. It's just an option play for the end of. That's the way I see it. It was just an option play. And then I saw them taking out all those people in the futures market in after hours because you have a low liquidity. Why do you think they waited until just after the the 5 o'clock bell? There's singles, the end of after hours trading, and it was what 15 minutes right after that, and then boom, you have this collapse. And all it was, I'm watching the futures when it was happening live, and actually, I was doing my nightly video, and I actually had it on where I was buying right in front of members because I got to pass up that opportunity to jump on a bunch of shares at that particular point. So it was worth doing. Any other daily charts or weekly that anyone wants to look at? Pop those on there right now. I don't know if you want to look at eBay. FAS we looked at was looking a little suspicious. Let's put FAS up there because now again, I would look at the primary sector before necessarily regarding the triple ETF. But we could see that, particularly on the second, when we moved to the higher extreme, and then you end up with the gray dot, we talked about the discount would have had you in there right around that 122 level. And boy, this morning it retraced all the way down to that level, the 117 plus range. So CMG, oh yeah, good point. And I should also do Buffalo Wild Wings. We finally have one of those out west here. Oh, ISRG, that was a good one because ISRG showed exactly what we were talking about as far as the expanded ratio histogram going off the highway when my green dot buyers come in. So definitely, I'll put that one up right after we do CMG. That's going to be great. All right, CMG Daily. Everyone was gung-ho on it. I was gung-ho on it back over here when it was in malaise. A lot of my short friends said, no, this thing was going to break down. I'm like, no, I got plenty of buyers. And sure enough, boom, we hit all of our targets. Fine. Then we ended up with a halibut signal, and I gave my upside target again there. Halibut target gets hit. I get a red dot short, and I'm telling everybody, run for the hills. And they're like, no, 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 no. And here we go. There was the downside target. You can see it at the bottom, 284.78. And what was our low? 280. So, fine. CMG, hit the target. Is that particularly ugly? No, not really. I mean, shakeout's fine. I got no problems with my expanded ratio histogram. Still within the highway. The orange now is outside of that lineup, but as long as I don't have my yellow shooting up over the plus 13, I don't have a real issue with that. And let's show why that's significant. Because the ISRG is perfect to depict what I'm talking about with that ISRG. There we go. Okay, so this is what people were talking about the market tanking, and I was saying, no, we're not really seeing that from our readings yet, but I said to them, look, I've got my red dot short for the market right over here. I've got my gray dot on the ES and that. Okay, fine. What I don't have is this, where the expanded ratio histogram moves off the highway and tells me that I've got a sea change in direction. And what this is doing, I mean, this is parsing some tiny subfractals you don't even want to know about it. It's ridiculously long math, but it's not the point. The point is that we can visually depict it so that you can see that when, yeah, these buyers come in because they love to buy on the extreme low ticks. We talked about that one. Constant, but when this popped up over here, that lets you know that this was no game. This was a serious decline. And in fact, I said it was going to continue. Boom. Not only were we below the red line in that setup, I would said that if you were going to be interested in this one, that you wanted to find a discount to it. And so with that move, great dot retracing. Gosh, what was that? 40 points, roughly. So you were looking for at least a $10 plus discount to trail it lower. Okay, so that off of 515, you were looking at least somewhere around 505. It continued to move lower in there. It was funny because we were talking about this at the end of the day, and I was like, well, you had a positive improvement from the extreme histogram, but still below the red line. So I said you had to expect those lows to be taken out. So it broke down even lower. We'd have to look at an intraday. Well, let's do that. Let's go and look at a 78-minute chart and see if we were getting any signals from a 78-minute. It's going to take a little time for that intraday chart to process all this data, particularly as we end up to the close. We're going to be having stronger moves back and forth, and so that's going to wear on my processing because I am sending out a bazillion alerts to all the people who are getting these for the full week. So look at this setup here. Okay, so boom, ugly. Now, when you get readings where you have 8 bars below the red line, I mean, talk about nuances. This is a great one to show it. You tend to get a nice little reversal pop that's very short and gets overbought real fast. So when you're at positive extreme in a red trend of this kind of depth, that's not a long signal. This is coming back. So um, don't get too excited about the little up move. It's now you wanted to see a dead cat bounce in real life. Okay, that's a dead cat bounce right there, and you can see it because it's already overbought after having moved above the floor and ready to head back to it. It's still playable in the shorter time frames. Yeah, people are going to get excited when they see those kind of moves, but it's nice because the volatility increase means that you get better ATRs, which means you're going to be looking for bigger moves. And bigger moves, hey, I like that. Particularly when I have a distinct bias, because I want to leverage that distinct bias and take advantage of the setups. So I don't shy away from volatility. You get a lot of people say, "Oh, when there's volatility, you reduce your position size." No, you reduce your position size if you don't have a clear idea of what to expect. And if I'm trading, a moving average or something like that, yeah, you better reduce it because you could get whacked hard. In this particular case, we're not necessarily predicting it as much as seeing active traders buying up a setup. That's not craziness within a volatility setup. So a little bit different view. Well, we should look at the Baidu because I think we had a short on Baidu. Where was that? I think I had Baidu over here. No, that's X. Oh, are we gonna get to keep my shares? Let me look real quick. Yeah, we sold 24 calls for the week for for X and CLF and those, and so we'll get to keep those. So that worked out beautifully as far as that goes. Um, so you're looking for a sure retest the lows? Yeah, that's what it looks like. And in this particular case, the low right here off this last reading was 480, 476. So what I usually look for, and this is a good one to point out since you bring that up, um, when there's a long tail, I'm not worried about the long tails as much. Then I start to look at the open. So for me, my first target becomes that open at around 482. So pay attention to that because sometimes you can get these long wicks, and that's just a freak moment where they'll pull the bids, whatever lack of liquidity you want to call it, and then blow it out like that. So fine, you know, don't get drawn into that kind of exactness. Look at the open, and then I work from there based on what the readings are. And that causes people to freak out sometimes because they want everything to be this pristine fits within there, and it's like the market's dynamic, and you better be dynamic with it, or you're going to get left behind. And that's not to be mean or anything. It's just the reality of it. You've got to be able to react, and the only way to react and react with confidence and to have that confidence is to have something that is repeatable and that you can define and see. And that's for me what makes the biggest difference with the indicators is it becomes repetitive in the sense that I can see it. I know when I've got an oversold setup. I know that when I'm retesting a low here and I've got much higher readings, that they're attempting to shake me out. I'm not going to fall for that one. And so those things become reassuring, particularly if things are moving against you. And they will do that because these guys have a longer time frame, and it's not going to affect them if they get a drawdown of a little bit in between. But there's that fine line between allowing something to go too far and where they have to cover, and or whether they have to commit more. And that's why I always like to look to see if I'm getting additional bifractals within a setup to let me know that more people are, in fact, adding into the setup overall. And so, 78-minute Baidu, not horrible. Let's look at that's a 10-minute of Apple. And you see, they hit the target, comes back a little bit, fine. No issue with that. I wanted to put up the Baidu from a daily though because I think it had some downside projecting to it. Oh yeah, this is what we were talking about because we went over this in detail about the red dot and waiting on this setup because what we were seeing with the exact opposite of the ISRG, okay, with the green dot buy and the expanded ratio histogram moving to the upside, we have the exact opposite right here. And also we had the rising shakeout, and you're getting the exact opposite with the other setup. And some people look at MA. Let's take a look at MA. I liked MA. We talked about this earlier. And again, these are available for view after the fact. So you can see that we had the shakeout readings similar. Yes, they are above the warning line. That's fine when you got such a strong stock look like this, where we have our power Mo. Let me slide that one up a little bit. All above the line right here, and that triggered right back here on the pivot at this particular point. And a green trend coming off these. I was very, and it was a couple of weeks ago when we first started doing the dot alerts, and I was like, oh, MA looks very attractive to the upside. And people were telling me I was out of my mind, blah, 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 blah. And I get used to that. I don't take it personally. So if you want to call me names, by all means, it's not going to hurt me. I don't worry about that at all. Because this is very different than what people are used to, and because it's so different than what people are used to, they're going to have a hard time with it. It takes assimilation to it, and that's fine. That's why I keep putting the charts up in that. That's why I'm not out there trolling for followers or anything like that. But I try to present to people when I see them. They're posting this and that chart, and I like to ask, some questions. It's like, okay, well, what is your expectancy of a particular move, and where does it, lead to? So many of the charts that I see that come up, and then people say, well, wave 3 can go up or this direction. And it's like, well, how does that help anybody? That's just guessing. I can put Fibonacci's up all day long and say, well, yeah, we're at this one, so, okay, well, what's the probability of that particular Fibonacci holding under those specific situations? And I don't tend to get the answer, and I ask those questions because those are the questions I asked in order to, get us to where we're at here, looking at these particular setups. So, MA, I liked it. Visa looked good, though Visa wasn't as strong as MasterCard was overall. Let's look at our 15-minute ES as we get here towards the end of the day. Popped up, reached the peak right there. Not bad for a 15. This little dip down isn't anything to get worked up over. They just try and run some stops off of the initial play. Did get overbought. You can see that it went positive extreme +4 on the differential down there. Should I come up with a different name than differential? Yeah. I don't know. I'll take your suggestions. You come up with a name and I'll change it if it's good enough. I'll put it in there. In fact, the Ratio Hawk was named after a suggestion from one of our members on one of the particular moves, and so I called it the Hawk, utilizing part of his name. So names are flexible. What they do and how we describe it, that's less flexible. So from an overall, when we were looking back down here and I was buying all this setup and we caught the run, and you watch those trades live, and that's going to be in the video selection there for you to look at. Overbought here, we didn't get any little one. I should have looked at that because I should have just sold out the last 5 contracts, but not a big deal. What am I still trading now? Yeah, it's still in there. Where do we move? I'm down at 417 for the 423. That's a fine move. If we close it out, I was looking to do a little over 10 on those. It didn't get quite the bonus move on it, but hey, again, the market's going to do what the market's going to do. Let's look at the closeout of the ES from a daily standpoint, just so you can get an idea, because I like to look at these readings right as we're about to go into the end of the day, because that'll give us an idea of what to look at for the beginning of the week. Green trend, big dip there just below the red line. I'm going to be looking at Monday morning open. If I get a positive move on my extreme histogram above the red line, I will be buying heavy. Okay. Well, yeah, I'm going to be holding that ES trade. Am I holding anything else? Yeah, not a lot though, because I sold out of a lot of the Apple stuff at the peak there. I started to get attractive this morning. I have just a smallest amount of shares on that one, and still it's trading the automated. So that one got stop lost on the PCLN. Overall, that's going to happen. It was a nice move up. Again, this is why we were bullish on PCLN overall from that shorter time frame. And again, like I said, we looked at the setup. It was attractive. It was a beautiful way to draw in more shorts. Now, what else can you describe it as? And they make that effective move. But here, this is something that will cause me to be very interested now that we've peaked up here. I'm going to have to go into a lot of my additional indicators, because now we've gone way off the highway on this particular setup, and I have to be concerned that that's a ratio psi short signal like we had right here. Okay, came through, popped up the ratio psi just briefly. When my expanded ratio histogram pops up here, it becomes a short signal. You get a signal to prepare to cover when you dip back below the white line, and it becomes a cover when you move back above the cyan. I mean, not the cyan, but the magenta here. And so that took place after the dip. We bought into it a little earlier and covered it because we had these bifractals down at that overall setup. But that's a different story for a different time. Overall, this was good to have a nice, quiet day. Despite the market being majorly lower, I wasn't anxious about this overall. It just met the criteria that we had for fulfilling that red dot short. We've done that. However, now I need to see an immediate move of this expanded ratio histogram lower. Otherwise, it's going to be a much more protracted or potentially deeper downturn. So we'll keep that one in mind. We're likely to get some bi-dot fractal setups Monday if there is any improvement. It's a short day. That makes it a little bit tougher. Well, let's watch ES. Let's go to an intraday 10-minute for the last few moments of trading. We could do a 5, but I think it might take too long to load it. We've got a minute and 30 seconds mark. Official clock countdown there. And so again, though, those of you who are interested, TradeStation's offering that free 60 days. My agent happens to be Adam Marfort. You can always tell him that you're working there. And like I've said, if you want to try out the indicators, be happy to let you try them out for 8 or 10 days so you get a chance to look at them and work with it a little bit. And that's helpful because it takes some getting used to, particularly from the setups. I go over a lot of them, but even still, I'm available to, try and help you see it in a little bit different way. Oh, come on already. We got 45 seconds. It's probably going to just pop up and not particularly moving anything in particular. Okay. I always look for my Friday late buyers. They already had their run, so they may not be holding for my holiday. 30 seconds, still can't get this. See, it's just what happens is the volume gets so dramatic that it just sucks up my processor. And that's okay. We're going to get closed out here, and I'm not going to have my chart pop up. But everyone, you have a happy weekend. I mean, I'll be around on Monday. My kids are all off for the holidays, so we're going to be doing all sorts of fun things leading up. And that was the bell. course, now the volumes will drop off dramatically and it'll pop up. Oh my goodness, it's horribly long time. Yeah, there it goes, of course. Sure enough, yeah, see, nothing to really worry about. So from 10 minute standpoint, you can see that short signal came in. So look at that, called it. We were on the 15 minute, should have had our, and so when I'm looking at it, just for those who are left, I'll usually have a, 1000 tick, 3500 tick, 5500, 9000 tick. But if you're doing time frames, it would be 2 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute, and I'll have them all going across, because what you don't see is this is a tiny chunk of my screen. I can show you what my real estate looks like. I mean, I get 260-inch plasmas going here, so I can expand back and you can see how many charts I can fill in quite a big space. So I can see, an enormous amount. But the tighter I get in, the easier it is for you to see the HD quality of the image. And so that's why I did that. So overall, that's another, little expanse. Okay, see, look at that. They always do this. They close it out and then they, pop it a little bit further. It met the short target there, for the end of day. They were just trying to clear out their profits. Everyone took them. And still don't have any overall negative bias now, particularly now that we've met the short target. So from that standpoint, keep trading well. If you haven't had a trial, by all means, just go to TradeTheMBI.com and do one of the trials, and you can follow the trades that we do during that week period. I've had quite a few good weeks, so it's fantastic. So there you go. Can't complain about anything that we saw today. It was all pretty good. Still have that overall ES trade right here. I should probably just go ahead and close it out to end the program. We'll see if I can get an extra tick out of it. See if they're nice to me. And we'll hold off. Turn the volume up because we can hear it say order filled if it clicks. That's always fun to do. And that's the nice thing about TradeStation. It will give you that overall sound. Oh, come on. Give me my little 2 ticks. One more. There we go. Come on. I'll take it at the
order filled.
Thank you. So there it was. It was okay for the day. We didn't do anything dramatic. We kept it easy. So well, there we go. We got Amazon green trend. There's probably a lot of dot alerts. In fact, let me. I can put up my dot alerts, and we can take a look at what the readings were. God, what did we get? We had 232 of them went out. So that is an enormous amount of signals that went out in a day. So hopefully you weren't too overwhelmed with all of those signals. But I see those all the time. That's just normal day for me. And let me see if I can slide this over. It's still sending out a bunch of alerts, so don't be surprised if you're going to get additional ones coming through. It's not done sending them all, because it's quite an enormous amount of volume overall. As we come through here, let me just, there it goes. Yeah, it's still sending them. Oh my god, it's got what, 68 more to send out, so it's getting there. There we go. Slide that over. And that gives you an idea that those are all getting forwarded. Now the time frame from my standpoint is, let me just widen the screen out and you can see that on the timestamp. And that's because I'm West Coast. That's a lot of signals that just came in at the close, and the way I've done all these overall was is that I established a setup that will only trigger signal at the close of a bar, and that means that you have to wait until they actually complete. So I had some people ask me, "Oh, it's 6:34 and I haven't got an alert yet." Well, no, you're not going to get it until the smallest time frame is 10 minutes. So the first alert's not going to come until the 10-minute bar is complete. And I don't have a problem with that because you don't necessarily want to trade that opening volatility. Um, because a lot of times it just bounces around and does nothing. So from an overall standpoint, but this was how all those different alerts, and just scroll right through here and you can see. Now you'll notice that the ES ones are dark because those are only being sent to me. And so you can see that from our ES, we had 30-minute, ES 15-minute, you can see what the alert was. Right there, gray dots, back when that happened. And scrolling up, so all these have gotten forwarded. Win, Faz, Google. Let's see what some of them were. Yeah, green trend changes, 78-minute orange dot for MasterCard. So giving you a little heads up as to the potential. Seems to be positive for the beginning of the holiday. So there you have it for a short day. So maybe we'll play around with some more. If you have any requests, we can always do that. And you guys all take care and continue to trade well. Prudent.